Dear all, this is Mithika from English ESL Way, and today we are going to study the chapter The Snake and the Mirror, a humorous story that makes us understand the bare reality of life, however. I believe in this story we all human beings can fit in appropriately because we human beings think high of ourselves, beauty, feel proud of gifted possession, and in all this we fail to show the holy gratitude to the Almighty who did all this thing for us. But when we encounter death, the first thing we human beings do is we recall him, we pray for our safety. And something like that happened in this story also. I hope you would enjoy the story. But before we read the story, I would like to introduce its author to you. The author of the story is Waiko Muhammad Bashir. He was regarded as prominent literary figures ever, and he was one of those outspoken figures who revolutionized Malayalam and thus world literature itself with his determined sarcasm, satire, and black humor. His novel Shabdangal was once banned due to its resonance that changed the feudalistic society. He was awarded with Padma Shri Award for his overall contribution to nation as freedom fighter, writer, and as a political activist. Snake and the Mirror. Has a snake ever coiled itself round any part of your body? A full-blooded cobra? All of us fell silent. The question came from the homeopath. So this is a story about a homeopathic doctor during his early career days. The narrator of the story is the doctor itself. There he narrates the story to some individual. He asks them if anyone had ever been wrapped up by a cobra snake which was full-blooded. The topic came up when we were discussing snakes. We listened attentively as the doctor continued with his tale. So this question came up when they had been discussing about snakes only, and the doctor started narrating the haunted part of his life, and everyone listened him attentively. It was a hot summer night. About 10 o'clock I had meal at the restaurant. So he's telling that it was hot summer night and the time was almost 10 o'clock while he was returning home after having his dinner at the restaurant, and returned to my home. I heard a noise from the above as I opened the door. So as the doctor was opening the door, he heard a noise from above, but he did not react because he was used to such noises. The sound was a familiar one. One could say that the rats and I shared the room. So he was used to listen to these kind of noises because it was the noise of rat, and his room was definitely infested with rats, and they were his constant companions. Therefore he was used to such noises. I took out my box of matches and lighted the kerosene lamp on the table. The house was not electrified. It was a small rented room. So the doctor lived in a small rented room which was an outhouse, and there was no provision of electricity. Therefore he lighted the kerosene lamp with a matchbox. I had just set up medical practice and my earnings were meager. I had about 60 rupees in my suitcase along with some shirts and dhotis. I also possessed one solitary black coat which was then wearing. So now the doctor is telling the reason for living in a small room and giving details about his condition. So he's telling that as he had just started his medical practice and a few people knew him, and therefore he was not earning much. And on account of this all things, he was living in such a shabby, dirty, conditioned room, and he told that he had just 60 rupees in his bag. Further he added that he had some shirts and dhotis to wear. He also had only black colored coat which he was wearing at the time of incident. I took off my black coat, white shirt and not so white vest and hung them up. So he took off his coat, his shirt and his vest, and he says that his vest was not so white, which means that it was filthy, means very dirty. I opened the two windows in the room. It was an outer room with one wall facing the open yard. It had a tiled roof with long supporting gables. that rested on the beam over the wall. There was no ceiling. There was a regular traffic of the rats to and from the beam. So then he opened the windows. The room which he has taken on rent was on outside of the house, and one wall of the room faced the garden. The gable was supported by the beams, and inside the room there was no roof, and the beam on which the gable was supported was full of rats which went in and out of the room. Hence the room was in a dire state. Now can you see what kind of room he had been living? I made my bed and pulled it close to the wall. I lay down, but I could not sleep. So where did he set his bed? He set his bed near the wall. And although he lay down on the bed, he could not sleep. I got up and went out to the veranda for a little air, but the wind god seemed to have taken time. So he was feeling hot inside, as he did not have any fan or cooler in his room, and he was feeling hot, and therefore he could not sleep. So he thought it would be better for him if he go out and get some little air. But the wind god had taken off, means he was on holiday and wind was not blowing at all. I went back into the room and sat down on the chair. I opened the box beneath the table and took out a book, the Mathematica. I opened it. At the table on which stood the lamp and a large mirror, a small comb lay beside the mirror. So it was too hot outside to stay. So he came back into his room and sat on a chair, and he opened the box under the table. And what did he take out? He took out a book. And what was the name of the book? It was Mathematica. He kept it on the same table on which what was there? Tell me. A lamp, a large mirror, and a small comb, right? And what did he do then? He opened it and sat down over there. One feels tempted to look into mirror when it is near one. I took a look. In those days, I was a great admirer of beauty, and I believed in making myself look handsome. So as he was sitting in front of the mirror, he looked at his image in the mirror. He says that he was a great admirer of beauty. As he was a young man, he liked to appreciate beautiful things and wanted to improve his looks to look more handsome. I was unmarried and I was a doctor. I felt I had to make my present felt. So furthermore, whilst admiring himself, a desire came in him to look more presentable. As he was unmarried and he was a doctor too, he was an eligible bachelor, so he wanted to make people know that he was also available. I picked up the comb and ran it through my hair and adjusted the parting so that it looked straight and neat. So what did he do then? He picked up the comb which was laying beside, and he tried to set them properly so that he would look nice. I took a close look at my face in the mirror. I made an important decision. I would shave daily and grow a thin moustache to look more handsome. So he looked carefully in the mirror and decided what? He decided he would shave daily and grow a thin moustache because he thought that he would look better and more handsome if he had a moustache. Again, I heard the sound from above. So while he was combing his hair, he again heard the same sound from the above, but ignored it. I was after all a bachelor and a doctor. So bachelors are persons who have never been married. So the doctor repeats that he was not married and he was a doctor too. So he wanted to say that he was supposed to look very handsome. He was supposed to be good looking so that he could get a better match for himself. I looked into the mirror and smiled. It was an attractive smile. I made another earth-shaking decision. I would always keep that attractive smile on my face to look more handsome. Earth-shaking decision, do you know what is that meaning? Something very important, right? So he appreciated himself and said that he had an attractive smile. Another thing that he decided was that he would always keep smiling because of the opinion that he looked better when he smiled. So the doctor was being ironic here when he said that to keep smiling was an earth-shaking decision. So was it a very important decision to decide that if you look better you need to smile? So that is why the situation is being mentioned as an ironic situation here. I was after all a bachelor and doctor too on top of it. Again came that noise from above. On top of it means to add on to something. So again and over and again he was stressing that he was a bachelor, and to add to it he was also a doctor. He thought that he had a lot of value, and that is why he wanted to look handsome, and if he looked handsome, he would get a perfect match. So when he was into his thoughts of admiring himself, and again he heard a noise which was coming from above, but still he was ignored. I got up, paced up and down the room. Then another lovely thought struck me. I would get married to a woman doctor who had plenty of money and a good medical practice. She had to be fat for a valid reason. If I made some silly mistake and needed to run away, she could not be able to run after me and catch me. So he got up as he was tired of sitting in front of the mirror from his chair and started walking up and down his room. So gradually there was a shifting of his thought from self-admiration to this future marriage. Then he decided that he would marry a woman doctor and one who had lots of money and a good medical practice. Further, the doctor thought that he would marry a fat girl. For that he had a logical reason also, and it was very funny reason. He reasoned that if sometime he makes a mistake and his wife chases him in anger to hit him, she'll not be able to run fast and catch him if she would be a fat lady. With such thoughts in my mind, I resumed my seat in the chair in front of the table. There were no more sounds from above. Suddenly there came a dull thud as if a rubber tube had fallen to the ground. Surely nothing to worry about. So, thinking all these things about the marriage, about his looks and about the smile he had to keep up, so he was thinking, and the doctor again came and sat down on the chair. Now the sound had stopped, but all of a sudden something fell down, making the sound of a thud. It felt like some rubber tube had fallen, and the doctor did not bother about it. Even so, I thought I would turn around and take a look. So the doctor didn't seem to be bothered, but he still thought that he should turn around and see what had fallen, what was that third sound. No sooner had I turned, a fat snake wriggled over the back of the chair. So as soon as the doctor turned, he saw that a big fat snake had crawled over the chair and landed on my shoulder. The snake's landing on me and my turnings were simultaneous. Simultaneous means happened at the same time. So when he crawled over the chair and he sat on his shoulder, so doctor was saying that the timing of the doctor's turning around to look at the snake and the snake's landing on his shoulder was at the same time. I did not jump, I did not tremble, I did not cry out. There was no time to do any such things. So what a normal person after looking at snake would do? He would cry, he would panic, he would move here and there, try to save himself. But the doctor did not panic, did not jump, did not tremble, he did not shiver, he did not scream. It happened so fast, so instantaneously that he did not have time to react. The snake slithered along my shoulder and coiled around my left arm above the elbow. So slithered here is the twisting and crawling motion of the snake, and the snake moved in such a way that it wrapped itself on the doctor's left arm like a coil. Have you seen the coil? Okay, see in the picture. The hood was spread out and its head was hardly 3 or 4 inches from my face. So hood means the head of the snake. So it was in such a position just 3-4 inches away from his face that if he would have moved slightly, the snake could have bitten him. It would not be correct to say merely that I sat there holding my breath. I was turned to stone, but my mind was very active. So the doctor says that he was not only holding his breath, but he had, turned into a stone just like a statue. Although physically he was still like a statue, but his mind was very active and he was thinking that what he should do next. He was planning that how he would be able to save his life from this deadly snake. The door opened into darkness in the light of lamp. I sat there like a stone image in the flesh. So there was darkness all around him, outside the room, inside the room. It was all very dark and there was only single light, the light of lamp, and in that light he was sitting like a statue. I felt then the great presence of the creator of this world and this universe. God was there. So what we do when we are in trouble? We think of God. And in the same way, when the doctor was in trouble, he started feeling the presence of God. He was not able to do anything. So what he could do? He started thinking of God. Suppose I said something and he did not like it. I tried it in my imagination to write in bright letters outside my little hut the words, "Oh God." So he decided not to speak because he was thinking that if he would speak, if he started speaking, the snake would get mad at him, he would get angry with him. So in his heart, the doctor was praying to God to save his life. There was some pain in my left arm. It was as if a thick leaden road. No, a road made of molten fire was slowly but powerfully crushing my arm. The arm was beginning to be drained of all strength. What could I do? So, because the snake has coiled itself around his shoulder, it had wrapped itself around his arm, it was experiencing a lot of pain. He was feeling as if a thick molten rod made of lead was crushing his arm and breaking it. He felt helpless. He could not do anything to save himself. At my slightest movement, the snake would strike me. The death lurked 4 inches away. So strike means attack and lurk means hidden. So he knew that if he moved a bit, the snake would attack him, and that was very near to him. It was sitting at a distance of 4 inches. Suppose it struck. What was the medicine I had to take? There were no medicine in the room. I was but a poor, foolish and stupid doctor. I forgot my danger and smiled feebly at myself. Feebly means weakly. So he thought that, what if snake bit him? And then what would he do? Which medicine he would take? And then he recalled that there was no medicine in his room. He felt that he was a poor, foolish and a stupid doctor. He was feeling very weak, and as he did not have any way to come out of his situation, he smiled at his foolishness. It seemed as if God appreciated that. The snake turned its head. It looked into the mirror and saw its reflection. So the doctor was feeling something amazing now, and he was feeling that the God is appreciating the doctor's realization of his mistake and is showering his blessings on him. And therefore something favorable happened and the doctor's life was saved. Snake moved its head to the other side and saw the mirror. It looked at the mirror and saw its own reflection in it. I do not claim that it was the first snake and that had ever looked into a mirror, but it was certain that the snake was looking into the mirror. So, author here is telling that it is not possible that any snake had never looked at itself in the mirror before, but yes, this snake was looking at itself in the mirror, and the doctor was surprised because snake was looking at itself in the mirror very carefully. Was it admiring its own beauty? So the doctor was thinking that maybe it was admiring the beauty. Was it trying to make an important decision about growing a mustache or using eyeshadow and a mascara or wearing a vermilion spot on its forehead? Vermilion spot is like the bindi the Indian ladies put on their forehead. So the doctor imagines that the snake must be imagining different styles, like he was thinking few minutes back when he was looking at his face in the mirror. He thought that maybe the snake was also thinking of growing a mustache, or maybe of wearing eyeshadow and mascara to look more pretty, or maybe it was thinking of wearing a red colored bindi on its forehead. He did not know anything for certain. What sex was the snake? Was it a male or female? So the doctor was not sure of the sex of a snake. He was confused at whether it was a male or a female snake. I will never know, for the snake unwound itself from my arm and slowly slithered into my lap. From there it crept onto the table and moved towards the mirror. Perhaps it wanted to enjoy its reflection at closer quarters. Closer quarter means to get a closer look. So the doctor is saying that he will never come to know this, because just then it crawled from its arm and moved down into his lap, and from there it jumped and started crawling over the table, and it crawled very close to the mirror and started looking at itself. The doctor thought that maybe snake wanted to look at itself and have a closer look at its appearance. I was no mere image cut in granite. I was suddenly a man of flesh and blood. So granite is a type of stone. So the doctor was no longer a mere statue made of stone, because what happened? Because the snake had crawled down onto the table where there was a mirror. So as soon as the snake did so, the doctor came back to his life. Still holding my breath, I got up from the chair. So as the snake had crawled out of doctor's lap, he stood up, but he could not take his breath properly. He was holding it back. I quietly went out through the door into the veranda. From there, I leapt into the yard and ran for all I was worth. So, till now he had stopped his breath because he was scared of the snake. Now he quietly moved out of the door, jumped from the garden and ran away. Phew. Each of us heaved a sigh of relief. Somebody asked, "Doctor, is your wife very fat?" So all the people who were listening to the story got relief and took a deep breath after they came to know that he was saved. And someone from that group then asked the doctor whether his wife was fat. Oh, the doctor said, "God willed otherwise. My life companion is a thin, reedy person with the gift of a sprinter." So sprinters are those who run very fast, and reedy is a thing or a person resembling a tall, thin and a leaved plant of the grass family. So he replied that his wife was thin and tall, just like a reed plant, because the God did not want his wife to be fat. So she was thin and therefore she could run very fast. Somebody else asked, "Doctor, when you ran, did the snake follow you?" Then another person from the group asked him whether the snake chased him. The doctor replied, "I ran and ran till I reached a friend's house. Immediately I smeared oil all over myself and took a bath. I changed into fresh clothes." Smeared means covered with. So he replied that he ran and ran till he reached a friend's house, and there he took an oil massage, took a bath and wore fresh clothes. And he did not know if the snake had chased him or not, because he did not look behind. Next morning at about 8:30, I took my friend and one or two others to my room to move my things from there. So the next day around what time? 8:30 in the morning, the doctor along with two of his friends went to the room to bring his belongings from. But we found we had little to carry. Some thief had removed most of my things. The room had been cleaned out, but not really. The thief had left behind one thing as a final insult. "What was that?" I asked. The doctor said, "My vest, the dirty one." The fellow had such a sense of cleanliness, the rascal could have taken it and used it after washing it with soap and water. So rascal is a person who is cheeky person, especially a child or a man or a naughty person. So the doctor is saying that someone had stolen most of the things and there was not much stuff to take away, but he had left behind one thing. He thought that the thing which he left behind was to insult him. So somebody asked him that what was the thing which the thief left behind. To this he replied that he left the vest, which was the dirty leg, and was hanging on the wall. He added that the thief was so much into cleanliness that he had left the dirty vest there only. He says that naughty thief could have taken it along with him and washed it with soap and could have used it again. "Did you see the snake the next day, doctor?" So someone asked the doctor if he saw the snake the next day. The doctor laughed. "I have never seen it since it was a snake which was taken away with its own beauty." Taken with means attracted by. So he laughed and replied that after that night he never saw that snake again. Maybe the snake was attracted towards its own beauty, and that is why he looked it so carefully in the mirror. So, did you like the story? Nice it was? Humorous? Yes. So I think it is right to ask you, what did you get from the story? I guess this, that one should never feel proud of its beauty, strength and achievements, because it is the fear of death that makes us realize that how futile these worldly possessions are. And it is faith in God and modesty in thoughts makes us strong. So have faith in God, do the needful things and have success in your life. And with this beautiful message, I would like to say bye-bye, happy studies.